Here's a GRE verbal question. Let's take a look. When she first came to France from Bulgaria, she was hardly the blank student that she later made herself out to be, since she had access to considerable family wealth. All right, well, let's put aside these words just for a second, right? It's super important to understand the logic of the sentence first before we actually start plugging in words. So what this story tells us, and it is a story, is that this woman a long time ago came to France from Bulgaria. And at that time, I'm going to replace that word and say not, because that's what hardly means. She was not the blank student that she later made herself out to be. So when she, many years later, she's looking back on when she arrived and she says, oh, at that time I was a blank student. Now let's pretend the sentence ended there. That word could be anything, right? She was not the happy student that she later made herself out to be. She was not the sad student that she made herself out to be. She was not the funny student that she later made herself out to be. This is why this next part is so important, because it defines what we're looking for. Why was she not this kind of student? Well, she wasn't this kind of student because she had access to considerable family wealth. So if she had access to considerable family wealth, that means she wasn't a poor student, right? Or maybe someone struggling for money. So plug that in and see how it works for you. Make sure it kind of clicks. When she first came to France from Bulgaria, she wasn't the poor student that she later made herself out to be because she had access to considerable family wealth. It's like maybe she's living in the kind of bohemian section in like a rundown apartment, but she has quite a bit of money in the bank. Okay. Now let's look at these words. Maybe there are a few that we can eliminate right off the bat. And my guess is that you probably know the word naive, right? That means kind of like innocent, not very clear on how the world works. If you're naive, you don't understand how the world works. That doesn't fit poor, right? Precocious, maybe you know that word, maybe you don't. Let's leave it in just to be safe. Impecunious, that's a word that many people don't know, so we'll leave that in. Ambitious. This is the trap answer. Maybe you picked it. Here's why ambitious doesn't work. I'm going to ask you kind of a loaded question here. What does ambition have to do with wealth? Now, half of the audience might say, well, if you want to be wealthy, you have to be ambitious to have that money. But the other half might say, well, if you already have money, maybe you don't have any ambition. You don't have to work for it. And I don't know which one of those is true, right? Or I don't want to make assumptions about this person's personality. We have no idea how ambitious or unambitious she is. Maybe she used her family money to build a bigger fortune or something like that. I don't know. That's the point. The word ambition in and of itself does not mean poor or rich. So that doesn't work, but it's the trap answer, right? And then assiduous is maybe another word that we don't know. So I want to kind of pause right here and say, if you can eliminate 2 to 3 answers, you're already in a much better place than you were to begin with. Now we have to get a little loosey-goosey and lean on vibes a little bit. Because I promise you there will be words you don't know on this test. There will be multiple words you don't know on this test. And we have to try to figure something out. Well, let's use a little bit of logic here. Poverty, the word, right? I would, and this may be a little bit of a logical leap, but I would call that negative, right? You would rather be rich than poor. So maybe I'm looking for a negative word. Do any of these 3 have a prefix that sounds negative? Well, yeah, impecunious, right? So let's say I'm completely lost at sea here. Some of you might be able to eliminate precocious and assiduous, and then you're set, right? Let's say that you have to guess between these 3. I would still go for this one because im is a negative prefix, and we're looking for something negative. And to kind of put the nail in the coffin here, pecunious or pecuniary has to do with money. So C is the correct answer here. For more GRE tips and tricks or to sign up for my online course, follow the link on my profile.